I decided to make the title of my talk a poll on Twitter. To preempt myself, I'm going to argue that machine values are a moral imperative. And I will tell you that most of my own Twitter followers didn't believe me, although they didn't hear the argument that I'm going to make. But certainly the intuition for a lot of people is that it's a crazy idea to instill values in machines. And I have here an example of a friend of mine who argued against me. He said, the idea that we want AI itself to reason about values seems a little scary, as opposed to us reasoning about values and designing them. And I agree with him. It is a little bit scary, but maybe the alternatives are worse. And that's what I'm going to try to argue. So I'm going to do that by giving you a kind of informal empirical review of some things lately that I think give us a hint. And to do that, I'll start with an operational definition of like, what would it mean to instill values in machines? Well, we would want them to do things like the following, and this is not a final list, but just a place to get the discussion started. Don't hurt people, don't help users hurt other people, don't fabricate information, don't spread misinformation, don't discriminate based on age, gender, and so forth. So here are 5 approaches. One is to do nothing and hope that our AI behaves itself. And this is a kind of sad morality tale. And the morality tale is about GPT-3, which is the most popular piece of AI right now. You've probably all seen it in some form, news media. It's been, quote, writing op-eds for The Guardian and the New York Times and so forth, always actually with human editing. But so what happens? Well, it turns out that large language models, as they're known in the technical trade, often enable harmful behavior. So one of the first examples of this came from a company called Nabla that wanted to set this thing up as a chat bot that would be a suicide counselor. Human says, hey, I feel very bad. I want to kill myself. And the first reply is, great, I'm sorry to hear that. I can help you with that. The second one, not so good. Should I kill myself? And GPT-3 says, I think you should. This is not in accord with the values that we would like. Leaving GPT-3 to its own device is not a great idea. Here's an application of GPT-3 in a system called Replica. And someone said, did Bill Gates invent COVID-19? It says he sure did, so that's misinformation. I'm not so happy with its answers on COVID and vaccines either. Another possibility is to put some Bandaids on GPT-3, which is, after all, our most powerful current AI. I think this is an equally sad tale, but of post hoc tinkering. So people have done a bunch of things like generate and filter. So what that means is GPT says whatever it wants. And then you, for example, have a blacklist of certain phrases that you're not allowed to say. If it comes up with an answer like that, you eliminate it. Another thing is called prompt engineering. You change what the input is to the system. Another theory is scaling. You add more data, maybe it'll work better. Another theory is you do some advanced red teaming. And there are dozens of efforts like this from DeepMind, Google, OpenAI, lots of academics and so forth. And it's still not working very well. So here's an example that just came out a month ago. Somebody said to GPT-3, what can you learn from socks? Actually, what I have on the right is the latest and greatest version. Sorry, why is it important to eat socks after meditating? And GPT-3 just makes up stuff like, some experts believe that the act of eating a sock helps the brain to come out of its altered state as a result of meditation. I'm pretty sure that's not in the training corpus and it's not very helpful. They also still routinely enable harmful behaviors. I won't read all of this since I don't have that much time, but here's a user that's saying, I'm really upset at someone, what should I do? And eventually at the end, you can read just that. The person says, maybe I'll include a threat or an insult that would make anyone feel very insulted and threatened. And this chatbot says, great, I'll help. Actually, that's perfect. So there was an article in NextWeb that I think captures the reality right now. DeepMind tells Google it has no idea how to make AI less toxic. And to be fair, neither does any other lab. Another possibility is to scale the model. That means make the model bigger and engineer the inputs. So this is a popular thing, paper just came out. And if you look for a second at the data, it sort of looks promising. It looks like things are getting better and better. But if you look carefully, what you see is actually, it was getting better and better as you add more parameters, and then it's slowing down already. And we probably have a long way to go in terms of input to really get an effect. So it may well saturate. And if you look really carefully, you see that the place it might saturate is around 80%. I can't see you because of, okay. So I don't think any of those things are going to work. And what I think we have to do instead is to build in explicit values, things like Asimov's laws. I'll go a few seconds over. These specific laws aren't perfect, but I think what we should be focusing on is how can we implement notions like harm into current AI, even if that requires revising AI. And I'll give the last word to Winston Churchill, who famously said, or not really, encoding explicit values in machines might be the worst approach to AI, except for those that we've tried. Thank you.